Call the meeting to
Sorry.
order at 7:02 PM, not tardy. Welcome, everybody. Good to see you. Unfortunately, summer's over. I don't know who besides me has a definite mood downing time when you say goodbye to summer and hello to the fall and the winter, and I'm recovering. So Board of Finance always cheers me up. The first item is the approval of the August 20 minutes. Now,
Should we make a motion to have Diane sit in
Oh,
for
I'm
David
sorry.
Kelsey?
no, we don't need to.
Don't need a
David
motion, but at
appointed-
least recognize.
Because he already
David
appointed me.
requested her, so Diane is seated in place of David Kelsey. So the admissions with respect to the August 20th meeting minutes is that Anna graciously agreed to did them, and had them locked up in her draft box in her email and never pushed the send button.
Oh.
And I, who thought about it at the time, then completely forgot. Where are the August 20th minutes until today when I was preparing for today's meeting? And I first looked around for Michelle. Where's Michelle's minutes from August 20th? Till I remembered, well, she wasn't in any event. So Anna did the minutes. I've just distributed copies of them, and they're not terribly lengthy. Why don't we just take a few minutes to review them? And if folks feel uncomfortable reviewing and voting in this short time period, we can postpone it until next month.
Were the minutes reviewed, because I came on the call just after this, last month, were they the June minutes or the July minutes?
These
They
are
were
the
July.
minutes, right?
Yeah,
These
this
are the
is
August-
incorrect.
These are the August
these-
minutes. We've approved.
Yeah, no, I
Well,
mean,
what are-
it says minutes of June. It should have been minutes of July.
Oh,
That's wrong.
But up top, it does say minutes of board
Yeah.
finance.
That's my error.
So this should be July 18th.
Up
Was it
top,
the 18th?
Anna, your heading.
The heading is also,
Heading got the date wrong at the. No, I corrected it up here. I just was using,
He was pointing up to the top, so I just wanted to make sure.
you corrected it up where?
up here, it's August 20th, but down here it should say July. And I don't know what the date was in July now,
it was the 16th.
July 16th in both those
So one
spots.
comment is it should be the July 16th minutes.
On the second page, the last paragraph, looks like we're missing an E for the bond sale. It's TH bond
Yep.
sale.
Where is that, Matt?
Where it says Lime Senior Center renovation project, we're just missing an E in the word the first sentence, the bond sale. is-
The letter D, E.
Looks like
Yep.
there's something wrong with
And the
the
formatting is a little-
formatting is a little wonky. We can,
We can fix that.
it's in Word, so it can be.
And I think we wanna-
For Canvas and added a C. It may
It's
not
fun.
be on your copy.
For the sentence where it says Anita and I think we should use the person's name instead of the pronoun I.
What paragraph, Matt?
It says the town will receive the proceeds on Tuesday, September 24th. Anita and I had a meeting with S&P.
And Anita and Martha.
Yeah,
Good. Any other edits, comments?
So you send it to minutes,
can I send it to minutes?
then you can correct it and then we don't have to worry about it.
Perfect.
You send
Well,
it-
I think everybody's about done with them. Does anybody object to voting on the minutes tonight? Then let me ask for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Matt moves, second. Okay, second from Kim. So in terms of discussion, you have, Michelle, the correct date for the first item. And then in the Lime Senior Center renovation project on page 2, add an E to the bond and add substitute Martha for I. So we have those edits so far. Are there any other comments, edits, questions? Then hearing none, I will call for a vote of approving the minutes as amended. All in favor say aye.
Hi.
All right,
All opposed say nay. Any abstentions?
Me.
Well,
I wasn't here.
but you weren't seated at that meeting.
I wasn't here
she wasn't part of the
at
meeting.
all.
Oh,
So she-
but are
she
you
won't
not
vote.
listed?
No,
She's saying she's abstaining.
I'm
because she-
saying because I
But
was
you
not.
don't, I see. You get to vote today.
Today I get to vote, yes. That's why I'm
There
abstaining,
you go. Okay,
because I wasn't here for the meeting.
fair enough. Got it. Okay. So with one abstention, we're all set.
Yeah.
The financial reports, I took a look at them and have only a few questions, which Anita isn't here to answer, but I'll just tell you folks what they were. I was struck, and I don't know, Martha, if you or anybody has an answer to this question. You'll see that the interest income from Webster and the total for the 2 months of July and August is way ahead of 1/6 of the year. So if you take that 2-month figure of 154 and multiply by 6, you get 924 with a budget amount of 350. So my question, if anybody has any insight into this, is that an anomaly for some reason? And these are floating interest rates. So I understand that Fed can lower the interest rates and, it may come down later in the year. But is there any reason not to think if the Fed doesn't do that, that we won't be heading for a $900,000 sum for the year rather than a 350? Cross our fingers.
You did not mention that.
He did mention in her notes that it was,
Did.
in the first
Yeah,
paragraph,
not-
interest income is up for the month over last year. He didn't say why, but BJ, you're right, it's interest rates are high. And I saw in her notes that she's renegotiating things with Webster Bank. And some things are gonna change, and I don't know, if that's a precursor or it's one of those things you can't predict, so you just kind of take the ride and
Right,
hope it is 900 at the end of the year.
right. And that was my only substantive comment. Anybody else have any questions or comments?
I did, and again, I don't know if, without Anita here, under Selectman's office, part-time wages, Selectman,
Can you just tell me which there's
on
on the booklet?
the booklet, yep, page 1.
Yeah.
4th item down. Most of the things are in the 84 because it's 2 months into the year % range, unless it's a association that we pay, 2 payments a year. But part-time wages, I don't know if our budget is wrong. But we've already spent quote unquote double what we,
Well, that's because we only have the summer intern in the summer.
It's only a summer position.
So then
oh, that's what that, okay.
they go away.
Part-time wages selectmen, I didn't know what,
That's what that
Okay.
is.
all right,
Small amount.
so it's seasonal, great.
And then they would pick up again in May, although we are utilizing Jen Datum out of that budget to help with posting some of the meeting minutes because she has the software to clip
Yep.
the meetings and get them up to YouTube and the website as quickly as possible.
Um,
I have a question on the same page. Under the human resources, the coordinator.
Mhm.
So there was nothing for this past month. Is that?
Where's that, Diane?
It's under same page, page 1 of the
Uh-huh.
expenditures.
Right in the middle.
Human resources right in the middle.
There's
Mhm.
no
The
expenditure.
coordinator, it's like, we haven't hardly spent anything. Is that, we haven't filled a position, but we
No,
spent,
she works part-time. She works 20 to 25 hours a week.
but you didn't work at all in August?
I'm sure she did, and I don't know why it wasn't, but I will do a double check to make sure that it was pulled out of the right account.
Yeah,
Oh, that is true.
So the payroll was not submitted.
Right. She was away due to a family emergency, so she didn't submit her payroll for a 2-week period.
all right, so that's why it's, okay.
Thank you, Jude.
You're welcome.
Do you have another one? I have a question on page 2,
Mhm.
registrar. So early voting wages, we didn't budget anything, so. Did we not budget
We were-
anything?
Well, we were supposed to get some money from the state, and the state is sending us some, but not what they said they were going to send us. And certainly we manned 7 days, I believe, in August. We had to do 8 hours a day,
Mhm.
so it was pretty lengthy.
That was the primary.
Less than 100 votes.
Yeah.
But they are coming before the Board of Selectmen at our first meeting in October to talk about wages, to talk about budgeting. Because the days, 14 days in October are going to, starting October 21st, are
Right.
going to be quite,
If fair enough, but I'm surprised, and again, with
We put nothing
the
in there.
caveat that my memory is not good for many things. I thought we had discussed budgeting for early voting and putting something in. And I kind of thought we perhaps had asked Jen to come back with a proposal. Did we just drop the ball on that and never put anything in the budget?
Anybody got the bubble?
I don't remember.
Jen-
My budget book's in my car.
Oh, well, that isn't, that's all right.
we'll have a
I mean, I
conversation.
remember we talked to Jen and Kathy.
I
Yeah,
remember Jen coming to us and being pretty vocal about it was gonna be expensive.
absolutely. I remember the
Right.
I
conversation.
believe that they were supposed to send us $10,000.
Well, but
But
But it
even if
still
they
should have
send us
been
some
in
money, we gotta put it
I
in,
know.
we gotta put the income in and the expense.
So just for that time in August, we've already spent $6,500.
It's gonna be at least
now
double
we're
that.
only
Wow. It's gonna be a
And now we're
lot.
only getting like 2250.
Okay,
But in any event, it is what it is, and I'm assuming that this is correct. And that this spreadsheet isn't incorrect, that we really did budget something, but there's just a mistake here, but we can follow up and confirm that. Because I
we
thought we
just
had.
didn't budget.
Is this gonna go
Could
Oopsie-doopsie.
we,
over?
does go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, for the regular elections, we have a fair amount of money allocated. Perhaps, I don't know if we need that whole 40,000 to cover the regular elections. Maybe some of that was meant to go to the early vote. I'm just speculating here, but
Well,
Could be.
yeah, it could, wait, maybe for some reason we didn't think they were gonna put, because they weren't gonna pull out.
Don't know, but it doesn't.
Early
matter.
voting as a
That
separate.
seems like, maybe that is what we did.
Yeah, we just
Yeah.
threw it all
Because
into
that will be the
That's-
regular election, even
Yeah.
though it's early voting. I think that
Exactly.
just might have
That
got
seems like
placed
a
in the
big-
wrong
a big
spot for
allocation
one day.
For one day, yeah.
Because
Well,
the
it-
one day,
other
the
things.
one day of the
Day.
primary.
No, but it normally would be one day. It would just be
Right.
election day. So it would be weird that we would budget $40,000 for salaries for one day.
Right, and
So I think that just got put in the wrong spot.
this
Well,
has,
The other thing is there's $6,700 left on the primary line
right.
Yeah.
and so that will take care of that 6582.
And maybe, and sometimes if somebody doesn't code a pay sheet correctly.
Oh, regular primary.
One versus the other.
Yep.
So I'll check on that.
I say maybe Anita put a new line in for early voting that.
And it got used.
Right,
But-
which is a good idea to track
Right,
it.
put it that way there in the budget.
Yeah.
The budget, we just threw everything
Mhm.
together. We
She
didn't
may have had a
separate early
conversation with
and.
Jen and Kathy to do
Yeah,
that,
let's
just
take
so
a
that
look
they
at
can
that.
keep
You're right, I
track,
didn't
because
see
I
the
know that
primary
every
thing.
first selectman in town, in this
Yeah.
area. of
There aren't
the
any
state,
more
Blue River
primaries
is
this year.
Keeping track of these things.
So we got
There's
plenty
money
of,
to cover.
there's plenty of money.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
A good catch. Anything else?
I had a question on the first page on the revenue side. With Park and Rec at just about what we anticipated.
Hmm.
We're actually going to make more because this is only this part of the year, not the spring part of the year.
You're
So do
talking
we
about
have
the beach stickers?
no
just
the
Park
actual
and Rec.
Park and Rec?
Actual park and rec.
Yeah.
Okay.
So do we have any idea on how and why we are
Yeah.
so close and so high? So I mean, is pickleball really covering this?
Pickleball and summer camp. I mean, they were overloaded at summer camp.
But this is the revenue side. So this is us making money
That's what I'm
on
saying.
programs.
Summer camp.
Okay.
But doesn't the revenue for summer camp come in at the end of the fiscal year? Because I feel like we pay for that in June.
Yeah, like this seems like
That's true.
to get $89,000 in the last basically 2 months. Like I just wonder what
Yeah.
what
Or
was
even
that?
April.
What did
I
we
think
make
I paid for
money
summer
on?
camp in
But
April.
89,000 is year to date, so that's
Yeah.
what they've gotten.
July and
Well,
August.
July and
Oh,
August.
What Kim is saying is that at least a good
Unless-
part of the summer
Unless the
camp
checks
is
didn't
paid prior to July 1st.
Right. So that.
So
It
it
could be-
just raises the question that we.
It could be that the checks weren't deposited till July
That-
1st.
It's paid online. I paid with my credit card on their online thing.
And prior year revenues was 21,853.
Well, it is interesting too, because if you look at don't do this.
I'll check.
So isn't the second column how much revenue came in August, right?
So
In the
what-
period.
It's a total, it's year to date.
Something just seems
No, the
weird there.
second column is
Yeah,
for
you're
the
right.
total per period. It's $380, whereas last year was 21,000. So it's like, we got all of this other money just in July. We got like
$89,000.
$89,000 in July.
Someone write.
We had a lot of parking, in July. It was a very good summer. So I don't know.
It's on parking.
Yeah, parking is its own thing. I don't know. So I mean, I don't know if that was maybe a
That's an
keystroke
interesting.
or
It
like
could be.
just what it is, what that
Soccer.
was. That
We'll
made
have
us so
some,
much money.
we'll have Anita and
Soccer.
I are supposed
Sign
to.
your whole,
Yeah.
that's what that's what would be coming in.
That just
August.
seems like so much money.
That's-
Seems like
that's
a lot of
that-
money
that
that was
means
supposed to be allocated to last year was late and got allocated to
Possibly.
this year.
Who knows? But anyway, just ask her about it.
I will.
Well, I have one question on the last page where you see that
Which,
Oh, all the way to the last
document?
page?
the stapled together document.
So page 15,
No,
It's not numbered.
Back page. The back
It's
page.
the budget action needed
The back of
thing.
Yes.
15.
where
yes.
The transfer station is over budget by $71,000. And then in Anita's notes, she indicated, I think that the transfer station revenues are up by
Right.
$76,000.
In
So
last
my
year's
question
budget.
is that apples to apples? So the 76 covers the 71?
But it's still, the expense still has
No,
to go
not
to
that we
town
don't
meeting.
have to report.
I think
but
we
in
talked
terms of-
about this.
Yes.
We talked about this in August.
This page.
That it was over, but there was revenue to match it, but we
Right.
still had to go to town meeting.
No. Yeah, I'm not quarreling with the procedure. I'm just asking from a dollars and cents standpoint. Yeah, we're way over, but if the revenue exceeds it, then, from a net income standpoint, we're good. If I'm understanding it correctly.
And I do believe that was your conversation. The contracted services is that they're charging us more to haul some of the things away that,
Uh-huh.
whereas during COVID, we were actually making money because they were charging less because they were selling a lot of the things that, like cardboard was a huge seller. So they weren't charging as much to take it away.
Okay.
I had,
Yep, go ahead.
well, are we done with that?
I'm done.
I'm gonna, quick one on page 9. Emergency management, it's only because it's an other miscellaneous line.
Yeah.
So we have 500 and then we all of a sudden spent, $1,500. So what was that? So what was that for? Obviously something unexpected, I would assume, but not a big deal. It's not a lot of money, but
Well, when you see that in another category, miscellaneous, it's like, all right, what was that?
wouldn't be much to go on here. And it's 3 times what we budgeted. So,
Mhm.
okay.
Again, it may be that somebody,
Yeah, again, somebody just put something, I don't know where that goes and threw it in miscellaneous and it really shouldn't.
we'll find out, we'll have to do a report on the line and find out exactly what was
Okay.
paid out. And
And-
see if it actually applies to that line.
And while we're right there, I assume the Everbridge fee, that's an annual fee. So that's, that was paid for the 12 months.
Yes.
It's not a 6-month thing or anything like that.
Anything else?
Under the fire department,
Page.
page 10. About the 12th item down, technical support. Total budget was 10,500. They've spent 88,050. Don't know if that's a problem or not.
I'm assuming it goes along with computer software immediately above it. I saw that too, Andy, and I noted that.
Yeah,
So maybe they got new computers, so they needed a bunch of tech support, but that would
could be.
give us pause that
Yep.
will they
I mean,
need
I
more
didn't-
tech support?
I mean, they have such good detail in their budget book. I didn't pull that out honestly and look and see what the 10.5 was supposed to be spent on. And then I know we talked last month about the hoses that failed, but it looks like the hose testing.
Yeah.
I mean, that was, and they only do that once a year. So that's, what's done is done. So that's $500 over what they expected just for the testing. That has nothing to do with replacing the hose, but
Well, and the scuba flow testing was the same thing.
yeah.
That's a lot higher than we thought it was.
Yep. So maybe they didn't do their complete due diligence on what the testing is going to cost. I mean, they're usually really good about that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we can just give them some grace. It's like,
Yep.
it's a 9% overage, like things don't always
Oh,
go.
for that one's not bad, but the other one, the scuba one is,
$1,000 over.
Yeah,
yeah.
But the department on the whole is on target.
Yeah.
yeah, it is. It's at the 85%. So that's good.
Question in some regards, for me, I kind of feel like going forward, when we look at next year, we're like, oh, well, it's, we'll just keep it at $1,500. Well, wait a minute, last year, to keep in mind that
Yeah.
the cost is different.
They're usually really, really good about that.
Yeah.
They do a lot of homework. If you call the detail, they give us, one page on every line item. So
Well, I'm glad folks are looking at this carefully. That's kind of our job.
Mhm. That's it for me. Okay.
But we do have a couple of folks on the phone. Nancy O'Brien, hello. And an unverified resident. I don't know what that means. I guess these are public meetings, so we
One
don't,
is me,
one is you, but there's.
You're
three
the
folks up.
turquoise.
You're the turquoise one.
Nancy's on, and I'm sure Nancy's on because of the, something that I'm gonna talk about. The Swanbrook Sluiceway,
Okay.
so she's probably on because of that, and I don't know who the other person is.
Mr. and Mrs. Unverified resident, you're muted. Would you unmute yourself and introduce yourself, please?
If you're on the phone, could you please let us know who you are so that we can, note who our guests are this evening? Nancy O'Brien, we know you're here, but there's someone else on the phone that we're not sure who you are.
And I don't want to see.
I don't know if they have to.
Oh.
They're not going to
I
speak.
don't think we can compel them to, but I think it would at least be helpful and courteous if they were to
Maybe during public
introduce themselves. Yep. Okay, anything else on the financial information? Thank you.
Oh, before we move on, I had a question on our Board of Finance August 2024 highlights on the back. He said, please approve budget transfers under 20,000 and agree to send the transfer station appropriation to town meeting. Do we need to do any of that? Do we need to take action on
do.
that?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to do that now?
So that's the back page.
Yeah,
right?
that's the back. I'm assuming that's the back page
Correct.
is what she's talking about.
And that's number 4 on the agenda. So it's a total, take a look at it. A total of $57,476 comprised as indicated.
Well, it's 71,000 for the transfer station.
Those have to go to town meeting.
Yeah, we,
Yeah.
Talking about the
right.
right-hand column that we can
Okay,
vote on
I'm sorry.
tonight.
I'll make a motion to approve $57,476 in transfers as presented by the finance director.
Should that say, because that makes it sound like we as the Board of Finance are approving 57,000 and we can't approve anything over 20.
That's true. Do we need to
So
do each of these?
at least note that as supplied by the, the
Individual, or maybe, okay, we'll say, how about, transfers totaling $57,476 individually, all of them are below $20,000.
Perfect.
So are you referencing the public works, and the municipal refuse? and-
No.
it's from the top down, the
No, the
general
top-
fund.
Do you see that one
First.
column
Yeah.
here? And not those two, the 71,000, because
Yep.
that needs to go to town meeting.
I see, yeah. So all these are indeed.
Second,
Yeah.
So Anna has made a motion. Is there a second?
Matt.
Matt seconded. Is there any discussion? And all in favor of approving these transfers, each of which is less than $20,000, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Motion passes. Now,
BJ, can I just suggest that you might want to attach this back page as an addendum to that minute so that
Sure.
people know where it was?
absolutely. Would you do that, Michelle? Yeah, and it needs to be reflected in the minutes, what it is that we approved. With respect to the 71,000, have the Board of Selectmen has approved that to go to a town meeting yet? Is it time for us to approve it also, or what's the status about?
We did approve it in July. In July.
And did we approve it?
Early August, I'm sorry.
We approved it because the revenue was slightly more than the expense.
Sure.
We did not vote on it last month.
You didn't vote
We
on
didn't
it.
vote on it.
We voted, we sent it to you.
Okay,
So I'll make a motion to send the overages related to the transfer station totaling $71,000 to town meeting.
is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Abstentions? Motion passes. Okay. So we're down to other business. Do you have other business for us, Martha?
I guess I can do it under other business or I can do it under selectmen's report, but if you want other business.
Well, I know why Edie's here.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to ask the Board of Finance to add an item to the agenda.
I am, it's actually, there's going to be an addition of, 4 additions to the agenda.
Okay,
All requests for additional money that would have to go to town meeting except for, 1.
but let us know what those are, and then the
Okay.
Board of Finance can agree.
We have,
to have them.
request from the Halls Road Improvement Committee. We have a request for the Sluiceway or the Swan Brook Crib, as we may call it. We have a request from the Land Use Coordinator, Eric Knapp, for the zoning department. And we also have the Soundview parking lot. All of these will be required to go to town meeting.
And has the Board of Selectmen approved each of them to go to town meeting?
Yes.
Okay. So the specific request is that the Board of Finance, the Board of Selectmen has approved these and is sending these items to the Board of Finance for recommendation to the town meeting. And because there are additions to the agenda, I'd like to vote whether the Board of Finance is willing by majority vote to add these to the agenda tonight. Have a motion to that effect?
I move to add these 4 items to our agenda.
Second,
Second.
any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion, any abstentions? Motion passes. So shall we take these in the order that Martha mentioned them?
I think we should do Halls Road first since
Edie's here.
Do we have any other business? You know, is that,
We have this, just, no, we have no voting business. We have this, Martha will make a report, then we have public comment and
but,
that's it.
but the other business item, agenda item?
Oh, is there any other business? Not from me.
Okay, good. Just checking that one. All righty.
Tell us what's up, Martha.
Well, I'm going to ask that Edie join us at the
Okay.
table. Yesterday, Edie, contacted me, in the morning and knew,
Take us down.
Let's take one. Oh, wait.
Take one of
she said that she would like to come to the Board of Selectmen meeting to request some additional funding for particular reasons, and she's going to explain that to you. And she and David Kelsey came yesterday afternoon and presented to us. I know that some of you received the letter from Jude, and I know she's here so she can speak for herself as well, that she was concerned that we added it. But the reason I allowed it to be added was because of the fact that it's a topic that has to go to town meeting if it's approved by both the Board of Selectmen. And because the cost of what it is cost to put, as you know, to publish for a town meeting, I was trying to get as many things on there as possible at one time.
And the tentative date or the definite date is like the
I
30th.
would like that to be September 30th.
So that's why a bit of urgency. Edie Twining, you have the floor.
Okay. Thank you very much for giving me some time. There are basically 2 pieces to this request. They're both within the public improvements part of the master plan, which means right of way, streetscape, so basically the streetscape and the bridge and pier. The first thing on the list is the bridge and pier. And I just wanted to point out, so we have some good people on our committee that are helping us look for grants. And we did secure 2 grants already for the bridge and pier that more than covered the original cost of the contract to do the design work for the bridge and the pier. In working on that project, we discovered that Deep owns some property on the East Bank, which would be very useful or actually required in order to do the bridge to land it on the East Bank. They have offered to host a transfer. They've actually done this. They've offered to transfer the property to the town, and their main ask is to provide 8 parking spots and a fishing pier. So that takes us beyond our original amount of money that we had saved for the original contract.
Excuse me for interrupting, but I think you used, they've asked. I think
they required it. They required it. I'm sorry. Yeah. I don't have the right jargon here.
Transfer.
Thank you. Yes, they're requiring those 2 things. And in doing so, we need to add some design services for that. We're still waiting to get the final cost for that. But 47 is a good guess. If we subtract the original contract and the 47 from the original funds that we have, it's $32,000. So that's for the bridge and pier. The bridge and pier is already well underway, and we have spent money doing the work on it so far. The other part is a much bigger part to the town's needs, which is the streetscape, putting in sidewalks, lighting, landscaping, crosswalks, bike paths, all the basic stuff that creates what's called complete streets in the DOT world. We originally thought we might be able to do something like get a grant from DOT to do the construction and then figure out how to get the design work done. We've since learned that's not really possible. And in order to get any construction grants, we need to have stuff that's shovel ready. So we need to provide the drawings for that ahead of time. We've been working with BSC, who's helped us to understand the projected construction costs at 4,162. And in that, they figured out what the cost would be for designing. What they recommended was, one sec. They originally did some work for us to create a LOCSIP application, which is a big grant from the DOT. And in doing so, they provided us with this much detail already on what the sidewalks would look like. I can pass it around. But what they're saying is if we do a full survey of Halls Road and coordinate it with these CAD drawings, that would represent 25% of the project for complete streets. And then it could be taken to DOT to make sure that we have our design work done in conformance of what they need for exactly what DOT requires for every bell and whistle going on here with the construction drawings. So the short-term need for that 25% is $55,000. It could go into $400,000 for the remaining 75% of the design work. And in order for us to start looking for grants for the rest of the design work, we'd like to get started with DOT with this first 25%.
I did notice today that we're not going to have to make as many sidewalks because they're putting a nice one in front of the gas station.
Yes, isn't that nice? Well, yeah, and that brings you to other things like if the zoning changes went through, there might be other locations that put in their own sidewalks as well, which is another thing we've all seen.
But we really can't apply for grants unless we have the survey and DOT's approval of what we plan to do. So they're not going to be giving us money until we have a specific.
So what we're asking for is a request of $87,000 to cover this project.
Right. So these are additional costs in connection with an existing project as the project has evolved. And the Board of Selectmen recommends that this amount go to the town meeting for approval. And our job tonight is to second that.
So we recommended 98, but Edie found some savings today and it's now at 87.
Yes, that's right. We made some adjustments and figured out.
Okay.
So I know we're not, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
I know we're not voting on the additional 75%, but what's like kind of that looks like $400,000. Like what's the timing on that or what's the?
So the other materials that I gave you guys is a timeline and also a list of the grants that we're currently looking for. We also have some other ones that just showed up that we're looking for. And within that, there's some listings of grants along the way. You never know sometimes when these things are going to come up, but so there's two columns that one is the bridge and trails section and the other column is streetscapes, which is pretty much telling you what we're guessing for our timeline. Now, when things go into DOT, sometimes it can take longer than what we are hoping for. So we've tried to be generous in our suggestions of how much time it would take, but it's definitely important to pay attention to those details, but it will take, a couple of years to get these things underway. And Dave Kelsey helped with us to get these things worked out, so. Um,
So if everything goes, I mean, it looks like it's over a few years, 2027.
Yep.
And beyond,
yeah,
you know, obviously now a lot of planning and, has to happen.
yes.
What will the true total cost to the town? And I know you can't know what pricing is going to be in the, over the next.
For just design or for construction? I don't know if I've ever tallied that up. I mean, we do have two numbers here with construction estimates.
I mean, are you asking like bottom line grand total cost or cost to the town?
Cost to the town, realizing that you're going after grants. you're
Yeah.
Going after,
Yes, I know some grants require a 20% from the town or from other sources besides what they're offering. So sometimes you have to show that. I know it like with the Connecticut Rec Trail that we actually have money from, they needed 20%, but it was coming from the ARPA grant that we got. So I know there's ways of making that happen too, but you know, 20% would probably be if it all goes well,
Right.
where we
well, I
go.
guess my concern is we've seen a couple local projects between Senior Center and Region 18 had what they felt were hard, you know, good estimates,
Yes.
and the true construction bids came in significantly higher.
Yes.
If our estimates are 4.1 million.
Yep.
And we're talking about something that may happen over the next 3 years.
There is an escalation into that. I mean, we were filling
There
out,
were the senior and there were.
we
Region
were,
18 as well.
yeah, I mean, that's why we want to make sure that you understood that these are just estimates from this year. When we did some T8 grants, they asked for 10 and then 20% increases on everything
Mhm.
for pushing things out to 27.
I mean, I know that doesn't have much to do with the $87,000 now.
Yes,
And you have to do that work to get to the point where you know what it's really going to cost.
correct.
Right, so I would translate your question into this. We don't know what the total cost is going to be in the aggregate, let alone what the net cost to the town is going to be, because we don't know what the grants are going to
I
be.
mean,
And therefore, we can't possibly make a decision today to go ahead with construction, right? Because we don't have any numbers.
well, we're not, yeah, I realize we're just being asked.
No, I
to-
understand that. So the question is whether in the face of this uncertainty, but in the presence of all the work that's been done and the decision to move forward, are we willing to, in essence, invest another $87,000 to move it forward?
Well,
Yeah.
okay. And I just, yeah,
Any other questions or?
I mean, I guess-
comments? Yeah.
I guess maybe. I know from
think-
the townspeople with the appetite for the town spending $1.5 to $2 million on project like this.
Well, so this has to go to a town meeting,
Well,
right?
this part of it does. yeah.
Well, yeah, this part of it does. So we're not authorizing the
Well, all
expenditure
parts of it
tonight.
will have to eventually
Yeah,
have to
I
go.
understand that.
And, but the problem is that to get any grants or anything, we need the survey done. So we can't really tell you what it's gonna cost until we can apply. I can tell you from other talking to RiverCog. I've had meetings at RiverCog. I've had meetings with other selectmen. They said, get your survey done, get it, and there's money out there. I mean, I think Old Saybrook pulls money almost every year. They put some money into sidewalks, but they always have a grant coming right along after it, so they can get another portion done. They're
So does Essex.
Essex,
Essex
Essex has done theirs the same way.
They have sidewalks from Iverton all the way down through the center, and they did all that with grant upon grant upon grant to get
But
it.
This is more than just sidewalks.
This,
Well, that was two though.
to tell you that
So,
we have, she's going to have a really good chance of getting another Connecticut Rec and Trails grant if she has a good survey and she has the backing of the town, and it will be for considerably more money.
Mhm.
But she's got to have the backing of the town.
I guess my concern is to some degree, this is the first, and I realize and I appreciate all the work that you and the committee have continued to do and as this project's evolved and what you're learning from the DOT, but here we are on the 17th of September. You're planning to go to town meeting in less than 2 weeks.
Would you like me to push the town meeting out?
I think it's a good project.
So,
So we need to vote
well,
on this and to send it to town meeting.
well, yeah,
Yeah.
but the question is, you raised the ultimate question is whether the town wants to support this, right?
In the end,
And the venue.
So I think you
Well,
send it
or
to town
or
meeting
even
and
the
let them
87,000,
Right.
right?
decide.
So the venue for the ultimate decision on the expenditures of the town meeting.
Yep.
The question for us today, in terms of voting on it tonight or not, is there any additional information that the Board of Finance needs to decide whether or not to agree with the Board of Selectmen to bring it to town meeting? And I mean, Edie's here to, to answer any questions we have. I mean, I personally don't know what else we need, but that's just me.
So I think one proposal that was interesting was if we, because this seemed rushed because the town meeting is coming soon. You know, if we waited a month or 6 weeks or 2 months, would we have more information and feel any better? And
Right.
I think the answer is no.
No.
I
That's
think
the
that
question.
without the $87,000 to do your surveys and find out what money is out there, you're not going to have any, you're just going to have to go without solid information because I don't see how you can get that information without investing the 87,000.
And we're not in a position to be able to start sending out an RFP to even get that survey work done. So, and another part is, when we do reapply for the zoning change represents providing new housing within the community center. And that's the kind of stuff that funding is looking for, to see what the town does in terms of being dedicated to the project, but also that new housing is being made available on smaller scale than what we have today. That's a big piece to helping us get those grants.
I think this project has been going on been talked about for a really long time. And I think that this is a really great opportunity to move it forward to the next step. And I don't think that costs are going to get any less
You're
expensive.
not going to get less.
So I would like to make a motion to move the $87,000 number to town meeting to continue this project.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Diane, any further discussion? We'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
back there,
I'm sorry?
you have the select person's hand. I don't know if that,
Oh, yeah, I don't think you can comment to, you can public comment at the end. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? So the motion passes. Just to repeat, it's a motion to present this to town meeting, not to approve the expenditure.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for coming, Edie. And thanks for doing all this. I know that you
yeah,
had
it's a big project.
your compensation for this is 6 or 7 figures.
I didn't get a ring.
Thank you very much.
By the way, all of you should look at the book that Edie and Allison Mitchell wrote.
Right,
It's big. It's very
right.
great thing for our town. What's our second thing, BJ? How did we put that in order? So
The Swan Brook.
okay, so Swan Brook, I have some documentation. I have a letter from, I'll ask to pass that around. This is from Keith Nielsen and his partner from DACO. So Keith did additional drawings for the sluice way at Swan Brook. We went out to bid the day of our walkthrough. We had 5 interested parties. We thought that we would have 5 bids. In the end, we had only 2 bids. Some of the people that had been with us on the walkthrough said they're just too busy for this small of a project. So we had 2 bids, Sahaki and Gwenmar. And unfortunately, the Sahaki bridge was not built upon the actual specs of the project. He went down, he wasn't at the walkthrough. He didn't pick up the addendum and he measured things that were currently there, but that's not the new build. So we invited them both to come back to us on the next day. They both sat down with us and I explained to Justin, I think his name is Justin or Josh, that um, what was going on. Sorry. And he said, no, it's Josh. It's down at the bottom. It's Josh.
It's Josh.
So he said that he would, could not get in. First of all, we'd have to go back out to bid because I'd have to rebid it because he'd have to redo it. And I can't just let him redo it just because he was low bid. And he also didn't have prevailing wage in there because it's over 100,000. And he knew that once he added the new materials to it, he would go way above the 100,000. So he said he was just walking. And that left Gwenmore. They'd come in. They also did an interview with us and explained it. Macknick Brothers are going to work with Gwenmore just to be, Macknick Brothers is part of their bid, is included in their bid. They will remove all of the old piers that are in the water now, and also the ones that are the west side wall that's still up. They will remove all of that structure. They're also going to dig up in the sand the first 3 sections of the pipe that is currently there from the head wall to the what they call the sewer cap. And they're going to dig all the sand up around that. And they're going to check it because Keith is afraid that the head wall may have dropped. And when the head wall drops into the sand a little bit, pipe now is doing this. And they want to check all the seams going up to that section where the cap is. If the case is that those will done, that also included in this is the tarring that Macknick Brothers will do to tar the seams and seal it completely if that's where sand might be getting in, which would be blocking part of the flow. They'll then recover it with sand. We will have, I have enough money left in the budget from when we had thought we were going to do some work before that we will clean out. We'll have Monster Back come just before Gwenmore comes. We'll completely clean out the pipes again once that work is done. And then Gwenmore will continue to move forward and build the new sluiceway. This is a double walled. It's so it's a little much harder than the original one, and it will have a rounded corner. I could draw you a diagram if you wanted it instead of, and it's gonna have an end cap. So it's not it's same shape, but the east wall will be one section shorter than the west wall, and there'll be an end cap at it and a rounded corner built in that will have a rock strike structure in the corner holding it insecurely in place. And the goal is, because we've watched the water, that the water is now moving more to the east. We hope that when the water comes in, it will dissipate and go back out again, and we will not have the large influx of water that comes in when it's a straightaway. So it's been redesigned within the parameters, so we didn't have to go back out for another deep permit. Current permit we have allows us 3 more years. As we know, and I can remember sitting here the last time we asked for money to rebuild it. This is much stronger than what we did the last time, because the last time was kind of a rebuild Band-Aid. This is $144,700.
500.
145, sorry. 144.5.
Martha, do we have an estimate for the Macknick work?
That's included with.
He's the sub.
He's a sub.
He's a sub.
Oh, okay.
So
Maybe
you
it'd be
call
an
this a
optimistic.
sluice? Hold on. Go ahead. You call this a sluiceway or a swale?
They call it according to, it's called a sluiceway. Does he call it a swale?
I see sluiceway here,
Yes.
but I just, in trying to educate myself on this business, I've heard the term swale used a lot as to what we may need, and I'm wondering.
Well, it's a swale like what O'Colony did in Lime Shores. That would be something more like a rock line jetty going out. That would take a Army Corps of Engineer design, and
So that's a bigger investment.
2 to 3 years,
Yep.
just getting through the permits and
Yep.
of course, cost as well. Now, if this goes up and this comes down, you can be sure. A, I'm not going to be happy, but 2, we will have to go to stronger measures. And if you've looked at the FEMA reports and you look where the sluiceway is, and you see that West End Drive is under concern in 2035. There's serious concerns for that end of the beach. So what will it bring? I don't know, but I can tell you that in the 2.5 years that I have been to that sluiceway, it has changed dramatically down there. And you can see the distance from the head wall to the water on a low tide day. You can see the difference where it used to be. I thought, oh, it's so far away. It isn't anymore. So we have to kind of protect our people from flooding. And this is one of the ways that we have to do it. I will tell you also in the sewer project that Miami Beach has to do some serious work on their storm drainage systems. Their storm drains all need to be refabricated, put together again, cleaned out. They're going to need millions of dollars for that as well. And yeah.
So maybe I'm being optimistic, but is there any sort of like warranty or anything that comes with this?
Against Mother Nature.
Unfortunately, Mother Nature's not writing them this month, but this is what it was going to cost to put it back together.
But let me kind of rephrase that question. You always get a warranty that the quality of the work is done,
Yeah,
professionally.
not that it's going to
But
operate.
the real question is, is it going to work?
Yeah.
And we can't get a guarantee to that, but at least the
Whoever's on the phone, please mute yourself because we can hear the background noise.
Thank you.
and identify yourself if you'd be so kind. And I understand that we can't prevent sand from getting into the pipe and having to clear that out from time to time. But in terms of the engineering and the construction of the structure, do we have a reasonable degree of confidence that that's going to be long lasting, short of an unforeseen hurricane?
Keith is pretty certain this is much stronger. But as he said, it's all up to Mother Nature. He said the only thing that would take this out or be in danger of this is if we had a Hurricane Gloria again, and the way that came into the shoreline versus all the ones that have come since then.
But that statement to me is a comforting statement. In other words, if they're effectively saying, even though they're not guaranteeing it in writing, that nothing short of Hurricane Gloria is going to take this out, I think that's what we want to hear.
Have the experts on the Flood and Erosion Commission weighed in?
They have not gotten weighed in on this because they've been working on the ones at White Sands.
Okay.
So the White Sands or the Marshland Restoration Project, which also leads out to the water, they're working on that one to see what they can do for that.
Martha, does the bulk of the water that enters this come from 156?
Well, Andy, yeah, because Swan Brook starts up above Peppermint Ridge and comes down behind my backyard in Witchwood, flows down through Nottingham, under Mile Creek Road, behind Matt Ward's house on Cross Lane, goes all the way down to Teddy's, then cuts under the road and goes over.
So it's runoff from all those areas from upland. It's not, I guess where I was going was if it was, the majority of it was from 156, which is a state road, that would there be the possibility of getting some state DOT funding?
We had the same thought in Haynes Park because the runoff that runs across state Haynes Park comes off of Route 1.
Yep.
And got nowhere on that. So this is obviously a much bigger magnitude. But to your original question, seems like from what Martha described, it's coming way north of 156.
Well, all those storm sewers that are on the sides of all the roads have to
empty
into something, and they all go into the same one because when the roads were designed, we had different conditions and we used the roads differently and we had way different housing developments.
We've
So
added so many more.
There's a lot of water that goes into this system that it was not designed to carry. So this is, I mean, I think we have to do this in order to preserve what we have, but I think that we'll be back here in a few years to discuss an Army Corps
We're gonna need, we need
design to
to
fix
do,
the whole thing.
we need to do a total analysis of our stormwater systems in this town.
How long does it take to get on the Army Corps' list to?
Well, before we do that, it seems like we have to, prepare some analyses.
So one of the things is that we haven't heard back from the grant that we applied for, which would be 300, I think it was 380,000 that we put in for, but we had gotten through the first round and then put in another. And that would be for some of the marshland restoration down in the Sound View, Miami Beach area to help us absorb some of the water that's coming in. And if that comes through, that would be a study that we would start to take on how can we help ourselves with Mother Nature. But I grew up in a town where everything was mapped out. We don't have maps.
It's in Ed Adamo's head.
It's all in Ed's head. And I mean, we need to literally go around and map because some are dry wells, some lead to culverts, some do not. And we need a map. And I have someone in mind, but I can't go into that project. But I think that we can work on this over the next year. As you're out walking, you can make note of where your storm drains on or your street and call me up and tell me where they are.
You know, I'm a civil engineer, but is it not incredible that we don't have mapping of our storm drains? I mean, is it not the case that most towns do?
Yeah, but it's not connected to a system. Ours basically go off the road and into a swamp or
Culvert.
just to get them off the road.
Okay.
As opposed to you go to a New London
Mhm.
and you
Goes
have
to a-
stormwater drains and you have sewer drains and they've got the lines.
And they need
They
to
don't know where
know,
they are.
they need to know how much volume that
Right.
they can absorb. So their treatment plans for that, because even their stormwater ends up in the treatment.
No,
plant.
no, it
So
doesn't.
It doesn't right now, but it used to, and they had to separate that. They had to figure that out.
Well,
So
Anna, I'm 65 and since I was 4 years old, the stormwater goes under Pequot Avenue on a large pipe that goes 350 feet out into the water. And that takes all the water from the 6th and 8th district of New London out into the thing. And there's another one on another beach up near Ocean Beach that will also do the same thing.
But
But those, what?
from what I understand here in Old Lyme, around the crib, a lot of private property owners have tried to move water off of their own properties by building stuff that is not on any map because it just wasn't.
If it's in Miami Beach, it's a private road. And there's water that empties into Swan Brook in that area as well. And they're supposed to be cleaning, they put in through inland wetlands and planning and zoning to redo Swan Brook, clean it out. And they're supposed to be working on that as well to make it cleaned out, no roots, so that will help the water flow more evenly and carry less debris. We did redo the grates in the inlet, so that's going to protect us from things getting into the pipes that as we've rebuilt them. But I'm not putting the grates on the end because even after this is built, there's no way of going in and clearing that. And if you put those grates on, that means well, Keith told me, he goes, the way he designed it, it's going to have a slide and you just need to have a backhoe down there to pick it up and then it'll slide right up. And I thought, well, we don't, and Nancy doesn't really want a backhoe on her beach all the time. I mean, they're being very gracious. We're going to have to make an agreement with them because we're going to have some massive trucks on their beach.
For the building or for?
For the building of this sluiceway. And it will take somewhere, but they're aiming for 3 weeks, but on the offset, it would be 6. It will be done by December 31st.
There is a plan that was written by the River Cog that includes us. Is that correct?
Not for this sluiceway.
Not for the sluiceway, but a flood and erosion plan.
Right, but that's not, let's just talk about
sorry.
this. I could go into water with you for 2 hours, but let's just move this.
So we're looking for a motion for 144.5 for the Swan Brook Drainage Sluiceway. recommending that the Board of Finance recommend that go to town meeting.
Yes.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Anna seconds it. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? The motion passes. Thank you all.
The next one is what?
Zoning.
Okay, so this is a letter from Eric Knapp explaining, as you know, in our budget last year, the zoning commission asked for $75,000 to do a zoning regulations overhaul. And they went out to bid. They wrote their RFQ. They went out to bid. They had some bids come back. We interviewed, I sat in on 2 interviews, I believe, of the bids that came in. And the zoning commission felt that they wanted to go with a company called FH1. Now, if you remember, when they asked for the 75,000, Eric Knapp did say this could be more costly and would become a 2-year project. So it is, the entire proposal is 129,776. To go into the contract, we need an additional $54,776. We should not sign a contract unless we're committed to pay for the entire thing. So although we can request this of the town meeting for this particular year, and we can move it over, we could also budget for it in next year's budget and then move it back if whatever. But to cover our tracks, they would like to go ahead with this contract for 129,776, and they're asking for an additional 54,776 on top of their 75,000. And I think Eric's done a pretty good job of writing this out for all of you.
Did this go out to bid? Were there multiple bidders?
There were.
Okay.
They interviewed 2.
And what was the other bidder's dollar amount? Was it more?
I still believe it was over the 75. I think it was in the 90 range, but
So-
because of the fact it wasn't complete. They bid them both.
So,
Jane Marsh and Paul Rozelle and Eric interviewed, and I sat in on the interviews. And then they took their comments back to the zoning commission. I was not there, but they had the 2. It could have been more, right? You know what? It might have been more. I don't know. I can call Eric and ask him.
I guess my question would be, because the paragraph here that says the zoning commission agreed with FHI that the zoning regulations need a larger, more comprehensive overhaul. So it sounds like the contractor came and said, well, here's what you asked for, but you really need this done, or you really should do this.
Mhm.
So did the scope of the work change?
I don't think when I was reading this, it seemed like it was not this, but about what happened at zoning. It sounded like the original other bid was just for cleaning up.
It wasn't as.
Like it was just cleaning up what we had, not even changing anything, just putting them
I
back.
don't know what the RFP asked for.
Yeah, let me,
Yeah, I don't know what that
I mean,
is. But
that's the
this
key, because we could get sued.
This included
Yeah.
both cleaning it up and then updating.
I realize that's what they're
Well,
yeah.
proposing, and they've said you need more work, but it's important to know, how does it line up with the RFP? Because if somebody bid on the RFP and checked all the boxes, and we're saying, no, we're gonna go with this one because they're doing this for us, well, then it changed,
right.
and we're gonna get sued by the other guy.
Well, and maybe we should go out
I
with another
texted
RFP.
Oh.
Right.
I think these are excellent questions, and this is a pretty short memo for
Yeah.
approving $130,000.
No, 54.
No, well, we're not gonna go into it if we don't want to go forward with the whole thing.
You already have 75,000 budgeted.
No, but he's saying
Well,
we're approving basically 129,000 with if we add the addition, if we suggest that
but
54,000 should
here's
go.
my question, Martha. In the first paragraph, I hear Eric saying that within the 75,000, these folks would take a look at our zoning regs, which are kind of sloppy, not formatted, and a couple of decades out of date, and they would conform them to state law with respect to zoning regulations, and they would make them happy to be read by a lawyer, right? Neat, pretty. Then for another $54,000, they will do X.
Go ahead.
And I want to know what X is. In other words, now for the 75, they've got the zoning regulations in compliance with state law and readable and understandable and good legalese. And then they're going to do more.
Okay.
And what's the more?
Okay, so I'm gonna just have Eric get on the phone, because
Okay.
Eric, I'm gonna just put you
Why
on
don't you have him
speaker.
call in?
This is fine, but he's got the answers and I could answer it, but I think this is better.
It's about what the RFP.
Okay.
Eric,
Can you hear me?
yeah,
Can you hear me, folks? Okay. Okay.
So-
Basically,
they have some questions about, did the RFQ, does this FH1 contract above and beyond what the RFQ asked for?
Yes and no. I mean, in the sense that this is really what we were hoping to get, but it was sort of they're proposing to do, I guess, what we wanted and a little bit more. So yes, we wanted this to happen, and no, I don't think the other proposal covered everything we wanted. But this is covering, I think, basically 110% of what we were looking for. So it has all of the input from the public we wanted. It has the addressing of new issues that we wanted. And it then sort of goes into a little bit towards sort of the POCD in the sense of what is it that we sort of see as the issues that are challenging to Old Lang's future. So it's an important thing for us to cover. It was addressed to some degree in the RFQ, but they are giving us, again, what I think the zoning commission believes is the best possible outcome for what we're asking for.
And was this the low bid or was it?
This is okay. The other bid came in at about 75 for a 1-year project to just reorganize the regulations. That sort of came in at price, but didn't do everything that the RFQ wanted.
Okay.
This came in at higher, considerably higher, but does everything the RFQ wanted, and then again a little bit extra on top of that.
Eric, can you articulate what is the additional beyond cleaning up the zoning regs and making sure they comply with state law? So that's the 75. But in addition, what else did the RFQ request?
Well, what it's requesting is that there are issues where the regulations are simply not adequate to address 21st century issues affecting the town of Old Lyme. For instance, issues regarding flood zone regulation, issues regarding what you're doing about sewers, issues regarding your, for instance, the Halls Road project, where you see commercial development, how you're handling ADA compliance. There are just issues that, and again, some of it we don't even know yet because a lot of what is built into the proposal is community outreach, figuring out what the community thinks is lacking in the regulations that the regulations then can be amended to address. So part of the proposal here is to, in fact, do more research to figure out, are there things we're not even aware of yet that we need to take into account for the regulations?
Okay. Have you talked to any law firms? Tell us who is FHI's studio. Who are they? Where are they? What's their expertise?
Okay, they are doing a number, I think it's at this point 5 or 6 other zone changes at the moment. As Martha can tell you, they're doing Stonington at the moment. They are doing a number of other ones around the state. They are based out of, I think it is Hamden. They are also associating with an attorney who is part of their package, sort of subcontracted through him that they do this with, who is out of, I believe, Newtown. He was with one of the big Hartford firms and basically decided to go out on his own. And this is pretty much what he's doing now. He is working with FHI as a consultant to make sure that the regs are legally compliant.
I assume, but don't know that you haven't just reached out to a couple of law firms that do a lot of zoning work to just ask them off the cuff, is this the kind of thing you do and for what order of magnitude?
Well, I mean, the last time that the regs were updated, they were updated by my now former law partner, Mark Brantz. And Mark did a very good job of making them legally compliant. The problem was that at the end of the process, there was a sense that the community was not sufficiently consulted about what it was Old Lyme wanted. So you need something that is not just on the legal side, which FHI is also proposing here, but you need something that's also on the planning side, which is more than what a law firm traditionally is going to offer in the situation. So yes, this is something that I did talk to Matt Willis about. He is, again, my former law partner. He is, again, Halloran Sage, where they ended up. Matt indicated that he was not, this is sort of beyond what he's really willing to do as a lawyer at this present time. The firms that are doing these sorts of things right now are not generally law firms. Generally, they are planning firms that then bring in lawyers to assist with them. One of the defects potentially of the other proposal was that they did not have a lawyer associated with them, that they were going to essentially do the legal consulting in-house, but without a lawyer, which to me said I was going to need to shop it to Matt Willis to have him review it. And the figure he quoted for that was $15,000. So the 75 was not really 75, it was really 90. And that's not easily sort of addressed in what's in front of you guys tonight. But I mean, ultimately, however we were doing it, it was probably not coming in at 75 because we were going to need additional work on the other proposal since they didn't have an attorney associated with it.
Well, thank you, Eric. I mean, it makes perfect sense to me that merely conforming our regs to the law and ignoring other issues that have been identified by the zoning commission or that may be identified through public communication is essential, and that Part B should be done. My only hesitation, if there is a hesitation, is that it's a sort of a sole source vendor. We just have one vendor who has raised his hand and said, yeah, I can do this. Do you have any reason to think that it's a pretty small club so that, looking further isn't going to find somebody better? I don't care so much about the,
when I was
about the money.
this out, I sent it out to two individuals who I thought would be interested. One of which was the firm that I worked with a great deal in Westbrook, Planometrics, Glenn Schalder. Glenn indicated he is in the process of retiring. So Glenn didn't want to do it. I also sent this to John Guskowski. John is very big in the planning community. You may be familiar with his name and his work. John also did not put in a bid. I don't know how many other firms there are that are doing this sort of work, but it is a relatively small club. I don't know. Certainly, if you want, we can send it back out for further bids. I don't know what we're necessarily going to get from that, but my suspicion is the pricing is not going to be considerably different than what we've already seen. So
Yeah, I'm not. I'm more concerned with the quality than the pricing. Have you checked with any of their clients to
Yes.
sort of get references?
Stonington. And they,
yes, we
and Stonington, the New London Day did a huge article on FHI
Yeah.
and what they did in Stonington. They've only done the first part in Stonington. They'll continue next year for more, but the write-up in the New London Day was quite excellent.
Mhm.
I think, Eric, our main concern that we just need cleared up from you is that what FHI is proposing is not above and beyond what was in the RFQ, to the point where the other company didn't, they only bid on a portion of it, and this FHI added extra stuff that, although we've decided we wanted, was not included in the RFQ, and therefore they didn't have the opportunity to bid on this as well.
Well, look, I would say that SLR bid on about, 75% of what we were looking for. And FHI probably did, as I said before, about 110% of what we're looking for. And maybe we can go back and cut that back a little bit and say, look, we don't need all of what you're proposing. Maybe we can cut it back a little bit. But again, the sense that we got from the zoning commission was that, look, just basically bringing the regs exactly to 2024 is kind of a waste of time and money. Let's be forward thinking, and as long as we're doing this, get something that's going to be useful for us going forward. And that's really what FHI is selling us.
But what I think I'm hearing is that the other bidder did not produce a proposal that was coextensive with the RFQ.
I think that's a fair thing to say. I think that, again, they were going to come in and in 10 months essentially ram through something that was a reorganization of our existing regs, bringing them up to the current law according to what they were telling us, and having it all fully adopted within a year, which was remarkably ambitious for time, but didn't leave a lot of room for sort of thinking about what we were doing. So again, I think what we're getting from FHI is the first part, which is the update. The second part is, okay, what are we missing in these regs, or how do the regs need to be updated to account for things going on in the 21st century?
And Eric, excuse me.
That really was not contained in the other proposal at all.
Eric, excuse me. This is Andy Russell, member of the Board of Finance. Did the RFQ include looking forward into the 21st century? Was that a request and part of the RFQ?
They did talk about a great deal about community outreach. It talked about making sure that the regulations accounted for things such as climate change or other new sort of advances in code development. So that was in the RFQ.
So this is Anna Ryder again. So you think that the first company that you're not proposing we go with, you think they had the opportunity to add more, they chose not to, and gave you this 1-year proposal, whereas the other company took everything in the RFQ and maybe added a little extra, but they did everything. The other company did not do everything to their detriment.
I think, again, the other company gave us as best as they had.
Okay.
I just don't think that they had the tools to do more than what they gave us. And the zoning commission felt that what they gave us was not sufficient based on what the RFQ was and what the needs of the regulations are.
And I do want you to know the RFQ was posted on CT Source. It was not just sent out to various groups. It was put on CT Source. And I think we posted it for 21 to 28 days, Eric?
Yeah, it was posted widely. And again, just to sort of again, by way of comparison here, I took what we used in Westbrook and then I added a bunch more to it. So it was a fairly robust RFQ. I'm happy to show it to you. It was not lacking in detail. It was not lacking in ambition. I just don't think the other firm had the tools to sort of fulfill that. And again, one of the things that they were lacking was the lawyer either on staff or consulting to do the legal review. And so I had to go back to Matt Willis and say, what would it cost you to review what they did? And again, the figure he came up with was about 15. So,
I guess what flagged my main concern is in your memo to Martha that the zoning commission agreed with FHI that the zoning regulations needed a larger, more comprehensive overhaul. To me, that means it wasn't asked for, that they came to the table and said, you should also be doing this, which may be exactly what we need to do. Nobody's fault, no error. But my concern is that the other company, because it was not in the RFQ, didn't put it in, and they're going to say, hey, wait a minute, we would have done that for this. I have a concern about that.
I understand your concern. And I guess, look, I'm not sure I can 100% allay those concerns, and sort of sitting here at home, it's hard for me to sort of thumb through my paperwork on this. That said, what I would say is that I had some, I guess, concerned, discomfort, I'm not even sure the right adjective to give to you, about the speed that they were looking to get this pushed through. And, you know, again, the lack of sort of expertise at being able to do all the pieces of what we need. So, you know, again, I think that the reality is that we are going to get, even in the part that is overlapping, I think we're going to get a better quality of product from FHI than we would have gotten from the other firm. Because I just think FHI, again, given that they have the in-house attorney, given the fact that they have sort of a broader depth of expertise, given the fact that they are working nearby in Stonington at present, I think they understand Old Lyme in a way that the other firm did not. And I think they have the expertise to give us the product that would be better for our local needs. Irrespective.
Eric, I think we're good. I think.
Yeah, we're good. The problem that we have really are the words of the memo. There's a sentence in the memo that reads, the FHI studio proposal was for a much more extensive overhaul of the regulations than had originally been contemplated. So one way to think about it is, if the FHA proposal includes the $75,000 worth of work that the RFQ requested, plus another $55,000 worth of work, should we be bifurcating it and sending out a second RFQ for the $55,000? I'm just kind of talking. I'm not saying we do this, but the issue that Andy raised is whether the other vendor can complain that they didn't have the opportunity to bid for this additional work.
No,
now, this sentence that I just read may be inaccurate, and maybe it doesn't say exactly what you mean, but on its face, it seems a little troublesome.
Well,
I understand what you're saying, and I understand why you're reading it that way and why you believe it's troublesome. I guess, again, what I would sort of go back to is, I truly believe that the quality, even for the phase one work that we are getting from FHI, would be superior. And if we were only doing the phase one, I still think the zoning commission would be better served going with FHI. So if we were to bifurcate, I think the answer is we would still hire FHI to do part one, and SLR was not really interested in doing part two. So we'd probably end up in the same place anyway, just because I think that, again, the zoning commission thinks this is where they wanted to come out, and I think they made the right choice on that.
anything else for Eric?
No, and I think, at least speaking for myself, I'm not going to second guess your and the Board of Selectmen's decision that this is a good company to do this scope of work. Our only concern is whether the other vendor has an opportunity to complain. I'm sure you
was the other vendor notified that you did not accept their bid?
I have not notified them yet. I wanted to wait until we got a little further into the process here. So at this point, no, I have not told the other vendor the outcome, because I wanted to make sure I knew what the outcome was before I said for sure that they were not getting the bid.
Okay.
So
who is the other vendor?
I believe it's SLR.
The company called SLR. But as Eric said, they did not hit all the points in the RFQ. So.
All right. Well, I think we're probably done with
Are you good, Eric? I think we're done. Thank you so much for your.
If you have further questions or comments, I am available, and feel free to reach out to me. Okay.
Thanks, Eric. Bye.
Thank you.
So for purposes of the Board of Finance's decision tonight, which again isn't to approve, it's to send it to the town meeting, I'd like to divide the question into two parts. First, without separate and apart from the question whether FLR has a reason to complain, forgetting about FLR. SLR. Yeah. Do we have any concerns or qualms about approving this proposal to second the motion of the Board of Selectmen to send it to town meeting. In other words, based on the scope of the work and the quality of the organization, any concerns about that?
Well, I would like to point out that you've had Eric as a lawyer and Jane Marsh as a lawyer, both look at the RFQ, both proposals, and go through it. Jane would not accept FH1 if she, or over SLR, if she thought that we were going to have any opportunity to be sued. You know that.
Well, I just, the wording in this memo bothers me, and they are probably the best company to do the work. It sounds like they have the components in-house between having the lawyer and the foresight. To me, this looks like the zoning commission was sold additional services because phase one was within the $75,000 that was budgeted. And here's phase two that's going to take an additional year. We think you need this.
But did they ask? For
And
this
they
too?
did.
That's the
He
question. They
said that
did.
in the RFQ.
I think he
They
did too.
asked for community participation. They asked for that. And when we
I
did the
think he did
interview with SLR, I said, are you going to do, oh, well, we could, but they hadn't written it in. So it's one of those things like they hadn't hit all the points of the RFQ. And that's what he stated. They were insufficient in meeting the mark of the total RFQ. This one hit all the marks of the RFQ and added another bell or whistle or two that the zoning commission had not originally thought of when they put the RFQ out.
I get that. That's what I'm saying. They're doing work above and beyond the scope.
Well, I also
And
don't
good
really,
for them, for saying, because they're supposedly the experts. And if they're that good of a company, they're going to say, well, yeah, that's great. We can do this, but you really need, most towns are doing this as well. And it makes sense for one company to do it because I would assume it's all intertwined
I will
as
say
opposed to putting the second part.
that I was with the first select woman at Stellington at another affordable housing conference. And I asked her how she felt about this company.
I'm not saying anything bad. The company's probably perfect. What I'm looking at is the process.
Well, she
And
said,
that's my concern. I'm a member of the Board of Finance, so I guess process doesn't make a difference, but
it does.
I just get concerned because I do hear of companies and municipalities getting sued because
So here's the deal.
things went out in one form and the rules were changed and it accommodated another vendor.
Here's what I would suggest, that we'll get you a copy of the RFQ. You'll get both the proposals and you can look at them. And then this can get pressed.
Again, Martha, I'm a member of the Board of Finance. I'm not going to go through that.
Okay, well.
That I'm going to,
it's
I
not
guess,
big.
I'm going to trust the Board of Selectmen. And, that, I don't have any problem with spending $130,000 on this if that's what it's going to cost to get our zoning regs up to snuff. That's not my objection. My objection is being concerned about the process and the town being open to possible litigation, which does become a Board of Finance issue because
So
we have to pay for it.
So let me ask you a question. If that sentence wasn't,
Oh,
that
absolutely.
sentence wasn't in there,
So
would you
if
have these?
this
sentences?
document were changed to, I see your beef with that particular sentence.
It's two parts of it.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
this document's.
So I'm just trying to go to a compromise space. Like if that.
We can't take this away,
Right,
this never
this has already been
happened. This is out
distributed
in
at a
the
public
world of
meeting, so
FOIA.
it's already
Yeah.
out in the world of FOIA.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's
But if we sit.
it's evidence, but it's not dispositive. I based on what Eric said, this sentence is poorly drafted. It doesn't.
It is what it is now.
Well, it's there, but it doesn't.
We need an additional memo
It doesn't.
that would specify that the other.
Well, let me-
company-
What we're being asked to do is approve an additional $54,000 to get our zoning regs up to snuff. We're being asked to send that to town meeting without a vendor's name necessarily on it. It's going to cost us $130,000 to get our zoning regs up to snuff, and that's going to be done over the next 2 years. I guess my personal recommendation would be that the RFQ be looked at and make sure that the bid work matches the RFQ. And if they put additional things in there, that the RFQ should be resent out with all of the things in it, shouldn't stop us from approving the money. But if we're not on that tight of a timeline, if we can wait another month to do that, that's fine. This doesn't sound like it has the same urgency, or maybe it does. I'm just.
But to your request, that would be a job for our law firm. They should review it and make that decision, right? And you're asking a legal question, what's our legal exposure? But
Sure.
my defense of
I
going
think we could
forward,
probably ask, we could ask Eric if you'd ask Jane, because Jane would give it a once over.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just to make sure. I mean, if there's
But-
extra stuff they're doing that's costing us extra money, that's fine. Then redo the RFQ.
Well, but is that really necessary?
Right.
What I'm hearing is that SLR is fairly disqualified because they presented a proposal that did not respond to all of the elements in the RFQ. One, and two, they don't have a lawyer on board. And it does make sense to me that one cannot accept a lengthy document telling you what the law is that hasn't been reviewed by a lawyer. So Eric's saying we're gonna have to spend more money to hire a lawyer to second
That
guess
brings
it.
it to 90.
So, I mean, I'm not uncomfortable
Maybe.
with the notion that SLR doesn't have a right to complain because they got excluded. So then we go to these other guys and they say, yeah, we'll do everything in the RFQ, and we'll do a little more, not a lot more, according to Eric. And our aggregate price is $130,000.
Well, they came in at
But
75.
just hear me out. So from an RFQ, RFP bidding and acceptance process standpoint, is there any harm in picking your best vendor? And then when you negotiate a services agreement with the vendor, having the vendor say, wouldn't you like to have this bell and this whistle? And you're saying, yeah, that sounds good. That's a reasonable price, without having to go out to rebid. Well, it would depend on how expensive the bells and the whistles are.
$54,000.
Well, no.
Because the
no.
phase one came in at 75. Is what I
Right,
understand.
No,
the last sentence- the last
75 is
sentence in the
bare
paragraph
bones.
is
That's just
also-
the update.
Disquieting as well.
The 75,000 was just for legal compliance, not to address any
He said-
changes in the zoning.
They said during budgeting season that if they were going to, they would be splitting the budget and asking for things for 2 years.
Yeah, they did.
That was what they said. Instead, they wrote the RFQ asking for everything they wanted and they got it. And they decided to move forward. They weren't even sure anybody would bid.
Anyway, so I'm not as uncomfortable as Andy is, but I think that Martha's suggestion of having Jane, putting the specific question to Jane
Mhm.
and having her take a look at
And
it
that's
would
before,
be a good
again,
idea.
I have no problem with the money, and realizing that the 129,776 is what it's going to take to get this done. Just making sure the RFQ and the contract
And
are
I
in alignment
and I
before
appreciate-
contract gets signed.
I appreciate your check and balance system. I always trust that you are looking out for the best of this town. But I will ask tomorrow that this goes, so if you can pass it, we can always pull it from town meeting. If
Mhm.
there's a question, we can say, we're not going forward with this at this point in time. And
And there's nothing wrong with having the money approved before it goes out for an RFQ either. Because you wouldn't have a name on it as a contractor on it, I would think.
Well, but what's going to the town meeting is this specific vendor at this specific price.
well, it doesn't have to.
It doesn't have to.
Doesn't have to.
The town
We
meeting
can
is
just say it right now.
expenditure of
You can say-
$54,000.
You can say
Right.
the bidder,
Yeah.
the winning
All
bidder.
right, so you would
It's,
not
it's,
necessarily.
to
be
get the job
identifying.
done is
Fair
gonna be
enough.
$129,000.
Well, let's do that then. Let's simply approve moving an additional $54,776 in addition to the 75 already approved to a town meeting for the revision of the zoning regs.
But I do think, BJ, we need to include some verbiage and maybe not in our proposal, maybe in it that like we do, like, there's no rush on this. These things are decades old. If it
Yeah.
slides by a month and a half, it
Exactly.
doesn't matter. So
Not
we
a
can
big
do a
deal.
little research to make sure that we alleviate the concerns that Andy brought up. I think that's very legitimate. We can still bring it to town meeting, but
Yep.
we don't have to execute the contract.
Exactly.
Like I said, I don't have a problem approving the money.
So moved.
So,
Thank you. Second.
Perfect.
was there a motion out there?
Yep.
That's
Who
excellent.
made the motion?
I made it
No, I-
and it was seconded.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anna made the motion for the 54. Scott.
776.
And the motion is simply to send this, to recommend, this addition to the zoning regs, the budget, to the town meeting.
Okay.
Interesting. Okay, three.
But how do
down.
we, I guess my one question before we vote is how do we ensure that we get this question about the
I'm gonna
RFP
put
resolved?
an
Yeah.
email out to Eric
Sure.
tomorrow with a CC to Paula Roselle and Jane, and I will say what the concern was and can they do this and do it in a timely manner? And to alleviate all questions, make sure that we're in compliance.
And you're not going to sign the contract till after the town meeting anyway, so there is time.
Right now,
13
that
days or
contract
whatever.
is with a lawyer anyways to review it, to
Yep.
make sure that it's up to code and
Yep.
snuff, because I'm not signing anything unless lawyers look at them. That's got me. All right.
Hmm?
We gonna
Did you
vote on it?
We have a vote?
We gotta
We
vote.
haven't vote. We need to
Oh,
vote.
yeah. Any discussion, further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Motion passes.
Okay, last one, really easy. 2 bids, Soundview parking lot, under the Department of Justice, 2 bids, 80,000, 60,000. We're taking the 60,000. It is, Aaron, Mortensen was here from Jacobson. We had 2 bids. I forgot to include his letter. I'm sorry, but, basically, I forgot to bring the letter. I will tell you that, the second bidder arrived 14 minutes late because there was a traffic accident at Middletown. They did not know the other bid. They walked in basically almost in cardiac arrest rate because she thought she was going to get fired because she didn't get here in time. And she said, will you accept it? And because we only had 1 bid, we said yes. And they ended up being the low bidder. They are a company that does mostly school parking lots and bus parking lots. And as you can imagine, they're not exactly wanted right around this time of year. So they have free time. The other bidder is notorious for just throwing bids in high. If they get it, great. If they don't, not. And they did call and ask if they were the low bidder. And I said, no, you were not. So that is that. And that is $60,000 to do the Soundview parking lot as designed by Jacobson.
Is it exactly 60?
Exactly 60.
And this is for the ADA compliance.
Yes.
Just
And
making
this
sure I
would
got the
be-
right one.
And their schedule's pretty open, so they would probably get it to it. If it passes at town meeting, they'd probably get to it within October.
I have a motion.
I move that we send $60,000 for the repaving or for the ADA compliance in the Soundview parking lot to town meeting.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, next, we've done other business. We're up to the selectmen's or why is it select man's? The select woman's report.
To tell you the truth, it's been pretty busy weeks, basically opening bids, sending out RFQs. And just keeping all that under wraps and trying to comply, make sure. Bonding took a great deal of time. We've had a lot of meetings with the bonding issue. That was a process. It was a lot of fun to be sitting in here. BJ was here that day, on the big screen, and it counts down the seconds and you see, and then the bids start coming in, but you can't see what they are. And then all of a sudden it says it's over and you click a button and they reorganize their names and it comes up. It was pretty cool.
And I think we had this professional bond advisor who did all the work. And then we had this bond
I
counsel.
think Anita did
this
most
fellow.
of the work. He sent us the list to do. Anita did a lot.
And I think that, so for both of these professionals, that was the lowest municipal bond bid that they've seen this season or recently.
And the next day, another town went out somewhere down in the Gold Coast and things had gone up and they got like 3.98.
Wow.
So Barry, our bonding counsel, said to us, so yes, and that money will come in on September 24th.
But it's interesting, and you folks may all know this, but I had to get re-educated, that the bond coupon is 4%, but the bond interest rate is 2.58%. How does that happen? People pay more than 100 cents on the dollar for the bonds. And that accumulates, I think, about $290,000, the so-called premium that the town gets in cash with limited uses, but to be spent in connection with specific things. But it's easy to spend it in a year or so, and effectively that reduces the effective interest rate. And I didn't quite understand why, from the bond holders, from the purchaser's standpoint, you may know, Andy, why is it advantageous? Is it a tax benefit or this or that? But it's something. I mean, the world of bonds is confusing.
Well, what I didn't realize too is it's actually a series of 10 bonds over 10 years. And so they tick off as you go, as you get to each level. So even though they call it, bond, it's really series.
Do they each have different interest rates?
No, but it's just the way they do it. I mean, and again, this is why you have bonding counsel and a financial advisor, because they have it down and put it all together. It's a pretty cool process. Of course, it does cost us some money, and that's what $289,000 of that premium will also go to pay both of their bills. And even the S&P test to get our bond rating, their bill came in at $16,000.
Money well spent.
But I will tell you that our bond counsel said you really should go for your bond rating even if you're not bond, you should get upgraded to keep your bond rating up there. Try to more often go for it, because it won't cost 16 if you don't wait so long, and it continues to keep you in that AAA. There are some towns, he said, bond every single year. They're always paying off, but they keep it constant, and they seem to have good things. So that's been police contract. We do have a tentative agreement with the police, but it is being reviewed by Pat McHale because he was on vacation. We did not ask Pat to come to negotiations. The negotiating team was Jill Carenberg, myself, and Anita. And for the police department, it was Dominic and Stephen Hackett. And we came to a tentative agreement after about 5 meetings, and signed off on some TAs immediately. And then, of course, it always comes down to the benefits at the end. And that's where we were. Pat is looking at it. I believe John Miller has already looked at it for AFSCME, and then we will bring it before the Board of Selectmen for ratification.
How many years is the contract?
4. And we did that because the way it's done, and it probably throws it off eventually, but Dominic said it always seems like we're negotiating when somebody's just gotten elected. So you come into an election and you get into office, and then you go through the budget cycle, and then you're supposed to start negotiating. And he said, wouldn't it be nice to negotiate when somebody's already been here a while and knows who we are and knows what's going on? And so we try to 4. So
What does AFSCME stand for?
It's the state, one of the state unions. And you're going to ask me, I used to know it words and forwards. AFSCME. AFSCME. AFSCME.
Yeah.
Look it up. American Federation of something municipalities and probably service employees. It has something to do like that. Try that.
Thank you.
we'll have quizzes on all acronyms at the end of the year. Anything else you want to know? Ferry Road is sidewalks. They're waiting to plant grass. That's the last I knew. The weeds were being killed. And then we're going back into hydro seed. Ed is back from vacation. He took his first 10-day vacation in 10 years. Had a great time. Brian did a great job filling in for him. And I do want you to know, I haven't made this public yet, but I got a nice letter. Person could not find my email for town hall, but she found my email on Region 18. And she told me how her mother and her companion, who are in their 80s, got stuck over at the Essex Firehouse and were attempting to change a tire. And she said, this very nice man who was one of our public works employees, and it was George, and he stopped and changed their tire for them in the evening. And she said, now he said, I work for Public Works in Elmine. And she said, but I just want you to know he didn't have to do it. And he stopped. And she said, it gave them such peace of mind to have such a nice guy. So if you see George, thank him. Anything else you want to know? Floors are done.
Of you or Andy, what progress is being made with the Region 18 school cost reduction project?
There was a meeting last night that we were presented with for the 3 schools, because Mile Creek is just about to go out to bid, hasn't even gone out to bid yet. That the building committee is going to recommend to the Board of Education to take the fire suppression system out of Lime Consolidated, which is 1.5 million. It's not necessary according to our fire marshal. That's sprinklers. It's really not impacting child, student, or staff safety. It's really to protect the building if something goes on when nobody's there. They are also looking, even though the bids aren't done yet, the bids are going out for Mile Creek with fire suppression for the whole building. They may be required to put it in the new part only because the other parts aren't being renovated. If they put it in the new part, what it eliminates is a 30,000 gallon tank, pump, and a generator to power that specifically. If they can't get a waiver and have to put it in the new classrooms being built, there's sufficient water pressure from Connecticut Water to handle that. So it greatly reduces the price. Basically, the number was $7 million over. We've got it with the recommended modifications, including taking the security component, the vestibules, out of the project and having that done by the Board of Ed with their sinking fund. That was about $1 million for the 3 schools. Not sure what it's going to be for Mile Creek, but all of those things and a lot of elbow grease by Susan Foliano and a subcommittee of the building committee with the contractor, looking at things like when they were going to put the ductwork, use the middle school as an example, they priced it based on bringing plywood in to cover the whole area at the same time. Well, you don't need to, you're not going to work on the whole area at the same time. You're going to work on 100 square feet or something. So buy 100 square feet of plywood, not 6,000 square feet of plywood. That I think was almost $400,000. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Plywood's
really
expensive.
Yeah.
And it was going to be used, and then I'm sure they're going to go use it again somewhere else. And it wasn't going to be new plywood, but they were charging like it was new plywood. So there are things like that the main things are the fire suppression probably being eliminated from both schools, from Lime Consolidated and Mile Creek, and the security vestibules not being eliminated, but the pocketbook it comes out of, or the bucket of money comes out of, being taken outside the project. Ian's checking to make sure that doesn't cause a problem with what went to referendum. Well, similar to our zoning, people think that's going to pay for it. It should be done as part of the project.
And
But-
you're gonna make a liar of me,
What was that?
because Diane and I knocked on doors and
Well,
really.
that was your thing. I was supportive, absolutely. Fire suppression.
So when we were talking to people about trying to get this referendum passed. I will admit that one of the things I said to people, don't you think fire suppression is something that's important in the elementary schools? I know it's trivial.
I mean, I think
You
the
were,
fire.
you said nothing incorrect.
We still have
It is
fire
important.
suppression. We have, it's a
I mean,
difference.
I think it is in center school already, I think. I know it's in the high school, obviously, but nothing.
Yeah,
been
yeah,
done
well,
there,
the
because that
high
was,
school
it had to be. And again,
But your point is interesting to me, that the sprinklers are to protect the building, not the children.
right.
And
You know, the
Care about
teachers
the
will get,
kids.
right. No, you know, that's why
There's
there's fire.
something short.
That's why there's
There's
fire
something
exits.
short.
I think that we already have that mechanism to protect the children.
Get out.
From what I
Right.
understand.
Don't
That's
hang
why
out
we
with
have
the
fire
range.
And what I understood Andy to say is it's if a fire happens when nobody's
Right.
there.
Yeah.
And
Or even if a fire does happen
When people are there.
when people are there,
It
the
helps.
kids get out. And then if the building burns, like we deal with that after the fact. Like the fire isn't,
Sees the
the
increase.
fire isn't,
I don't know. I
suppression
didn't ask
system
that
isn't
question, but
keeping
that's-
fire away from
Well,
children.
there's no
It's just
sprinklers there now.
saving the building.
Oh, but then the
So,
savings.
How long
In the
would
minutes it
take? How
takes.
much insurance savings would there be
They have
for
some-
a $1.5 million expenditure to that?
Parts of the attic.
So,
Yeah.
So
and
that
we're looking at,
when it gets hot, they shift
And so
things
the
down.
cost savings identified so
understand
far
it, but
just
Dave
about
tells
make
me
up.
that's
And
for it.
doors,
Yeah, that's
doors
exactly-
automatically close.
that's to protect children,
To-
to get children out, right?
No, that's to keep the fire from spreading from one area to another, so that
That's-
no, you want the doors to stay open so the kids can get out, but then
No, I
at
thought
some
maybe
point
they
they
were
shut.
protecting the
Yeah.
children from hot
the
places.
buildings are already compartmentalized is
Yeah.
what they call it. So that if a fire starts, should not spread through the whole thing, that there are firewalls that go
and
above the
doors.
ceiling tiles at certain break points.
Yep.
To keep it
Yep.
contained.
And like doors are rated for 45 minutes and things like that, so.
And that's one of the things that if they are successful with the waiver for the addition at Mile Creek, there will have to be some minor changes to the doors that would go between the old section and the new section to be more fire proof, and walls that would already be new. So that would already be a compartmentalization. So it's the security is important to everybody. That's not going anywhere. And the building committee was very specific. You need to bring this to the Board of Ed and have them agree that it'll be done by August of 2026, when the project will be done. If it's able to be done summer of 2025 and it makes sense as part of this project as it's going on, get it done. That's going to have to go back out for bid by
The
the Board of
security
Ed.
vestibule.
That's what you, yep. Because it's being taken out of the project that was already bid. It may end up costing us more doing it that way. It probably will.
Yep.
You know, it was about $1 million budgeted for those three schools. It may end up costing $1 million too. But we don't have that within the 57 million to do it. So, and right now, I think
So you
Region
could
8,
save the town money if you could spend the money now, which is what you're saying.
well, Region 18 has, I think Ian said it's at least $3 million sitting in there, might even be 6 million in their sinking fund. So it's money that we as taxpayers have already
Right.
written a check for.
Yeah.
It's what was used for the turf field. It's what was, there are other things that are proposed that'll be used for.
And Ian, the school system can't simply give the money to the project. It
No.
has to put
The
it-
project has to be
Carve it out.
57, it has to be 57,500,000.
That's what the referendum
Yeah,
approved.
it has, the project cannot come in over that number unless we go back to the towns and ask taxpayers and ask for more money. You can't have a donation. It's like the grants. I mean, the gross we budgeted or the referendum was 57 change.
Right.
But did
You know, we're already getting the air conditioning and we're getting, partial reimbursement for Mile Creek.
Mhm.
So the townspeople will not we're not going to end up paying the 57 million. It should be
Right.
somewhere around 34
Right.
And that's because of grants and what.
because of grants, but you can't say,
It's not
oh, we
additive.
agreed to spend 57. You can't add a $12 million air conditioning grant and turn it into $69 million project.
Right.
You can't do it.
Andy, will they prioritize the security vestibules? Because I mean, in their 5-year plan, because usually we look at that when we start to spend some of that.
The criteria of the building
move that-
committee.
To move
was
that up.
It's
instead
got to
of-
be done, concluded when the building project on the schools is concluded, which is
That would be the next.
August of 2026. And that's a project that would have to be done over the summer.
Right.
Could not be done during the school year. So if it can't get turned around out to bid and somebody do it in conjunction with what's going to happen next summer, then it'll have to be done by the end of 2026. So, yeah, it does leapfrog some things like,
So when they put out the
Field house.
referendum, there's nothing specific, there's not a specific RFP that goes along with that. To
with what,
say, when it goes to referendum, this money is going to be spent for.
there was a list, I looked at what the referendum was and it's pretty vague.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like it's listed every single
No.
thing because
No.
exactly,
For that
you
reason.
come back and you're gonna move stuff around, you're gonna change what you thought.
And because it costs too much.
Or just for other reasons. There's
I
like
mean,
other reasons why
The
you
real
decide
thing
to
that
do
drove it
different.
is there are so many schools and companies doing air conditioning projects out there because of the state money available, that those bids were through the roof.
It was expensive to start.
But it was more than anticipated, and the site work was very expensive, and one of the things that made the site work expensive was, so some of the parking lots are not gonna get redone right away. That may be something that Board of Ed's gonna have to look at sinking fund. There's gonna be some reconfiguration, Mile Creek, and there'll be a little bit of line, but again, I was flabbergasted that the fire suppression up there was $1.5 million.
That was a big change for the senior center,
Yeah.
changing the fire suppression
Yeah.
system.
So,
I just realized that I probably should update you on sewers. So if we just, the IMA, the intermunicipal agreement between, the town of Old Lyme, the 3 private beaches and New London is, I would say 99.9% sure that we will be signing that. We're possibly having a special board of selectmen meeting on Friday if the final draft is presented to me. But they think one of the beaches, Old Lyme Shores, I think, was voting on it tonight to it, but we did have some changes made by our lawyer. And then the next thing is the cost sharing agreement that was created originally with just the 3 private beaches. Now is being rewritten to bring us into it. Both of those have to be done according to for us to go out to bid. That was a condition that we sign off on both of those. So we haven't finalized the CSA yet. That's still in, and Mike Carey, who's been handling that for us, is on vacation until Thursday night. So we won't have any updates on that until after that. Then they would go out to bid. And so a couple of things is that they are working on the equivalent dwelling units, or you'll hear them called EDUs. I know that Dimitri has worked on it all weekend and it wants to come and present to me what he thought was a more fair way to do it. So we've been looking at that, and then also the long run. Most likely what would happen, and because the town is always going to be here, there has to be someone who's going to be billing these users and all of the beaches and here for their usage. And because the town is the stable, somebody had mentioned starting a private company in one of the beaches to bill taxpayers. And I said, that just doesn't sit right with me, because you're talking about who starts this, who's part of it. The trust of the people know that the town's going to have to oversee it. So a WPCA under Connecticut General Statutes is its own somewhat entity within a town, and it will have to have its revenue kept separate from the towns, and it will pay for tax and pay for those things. that would be like 2 years out, 3 years out when things get flowing. But the meeting that we had on August 29th was kind of eye-opening in the fact that Nisha Patel, who presented 3 times, said during the meeting, well, we didn't say that you were polluting. We said you had the potential to pollute. And I was like, excuse me? What does that mean? The other concern that I had is the cost. There were a lot of people here from Soundview. This room was filled and there were seats out into the vestibule. People are concerned they're not going to be able to afford it. It's 22. They're thinking each EDU will be assessed to around $22,000. I know that Jim Lampo said originally his EDU was 4. That's 88,000. Jim also mentioned that for him to put in the lateral from the street to the house, he would have to take out 2 trees, move his fence line, and move his fence, take his fence out, and then of course put the line in, then put it in, because I'll lose the trees. I'm not going to plant new trees, but those types of expenses are also things that people are going to incur. And there were many senior citizens here. So I did ask Nisha, point blank, I said, someone asked her, what would happen if we said no? And she said, well, we probably send you, and it's called a P something, and protected violation or something like that. That would go to Attorney General Tong and would say, what are you going to do with this town that's not complying, or part of the town that's not complying? So I asked her point blank in front of everyone. I said, so would Attorney General Tong want people to lose their houses because it's going to cost too much for them? And she said, well, no. And I said, so we might have a valid point that it's too costly. And she said, well, possibly. And we'll have to look at that. And then remember, the testing was done in 2012. So we're looking at data results from 2012. And Eric Knapp provided me with some information on nitrogen and phosphorus, and he did a really nice article on flooding, and he said that's really where your issues are. He said because it just builds up in the ground in the septic, and then when you get those Soundview floods, he said it just takes it all back out to the sea, and that's what really is the issue. So we're kind of just, they'll go out to bid and we'll wait and see and start calculating away once it goes. And then figure out how this $15 million loan gets split up between the 3 things. According to Steve Tsunami, he doesn't think we're going to need to go back out to ask for money over the 9.5. Although some of the beach association members from the other private beaches have come in and said they do believe that all 4 beaches will have to go out back out to referendum because they've all only approved a certain amount.
So that's referendum among their group.
Yeah, it's not
They-
down.
They have all approved their own individual referendums that they'll assess their members.
Kind of like our neighborhood,
Yeah, a little bit.
right? On a bigger scale.
So
Right.
I will keep you posted as things happen, but, and I think that the cause of the IMA is once we sign it, we have to send $10,000 to New London to hold our spot. So we'll have to get approval from you for that, when we get to that point.
Anything else? Public comment. Mr. R, you have any comments? Nancy, any comments?
No.
I went out,
Unmute
I
myself.
turned off when I called Eric.
No, the only reason Martha was on was so that.
Hearing
it didn't
none,
lose our
I'll entertain
meeting.
a motion to
Yeah.
adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second, we're done. Thank
All
you
right.
all.